Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind Podcast, episode 138. Today we are talking, who is property developing? Who are the people doing the property developments? I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised when you hear what we've got to say. Anyway, let's jump on into episode 138. Hello, welcome to episode 138 Property Mastermind Podcast. Hilary Saxon and Bob Anderson. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Great to be here. Yeah, it is great to be here. It's better than the alternative, not being here.
Oh, heaven forbid. Plenty
Isn't
of time for that later.
Plenty of time for not being here. Bob, so we're giving away the book.
Yeah.
The Property Millionaires Exposed this week goes to Angelica May. That's Angelica. This is in the post to you.
Wow.
And I can't wait to hear what you say when you get to page 121. And I know we'll be talking about it. So you enjoy this. It's in the post probably tomorrow. Anyway, and for those of you that want a bit of inspiration, 3 wines in, if you want to know why you're not achieving what you want, you definitely need to get yourself a copy of this. And if you're into motivation, jump on to my podcast, Bounce Back Better. Alrighty, enough promoing myself, but remember it is our podcast and we're allowed to promo. Keyboard warriors, off you go. Okay.
Pack your bags.
Take your bag. Okay, doke. Bob.
Yeah.
What's the tip for the day? And I know you haven't got one because we haven't discussed it.
Oh, I'll give you one.
What?
Don't wear thongs in the rain.
Oh.
Or jandals or flip-flops or whatever you want to call them.
And why do you say this?
I went skiing this morning.
Oh, did you?
I was walking over to the office and it's a bit, it's tiled part of it outside.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a damp area and I was in a hurry and,
Did a bit of a slide.
Went skiing, didn't hit the deck, but I thought, either got to walk slower and maybe not wear those shiny thongs on a wet day. There you go.
That's a fabulous tip. That is it. They are a. What did we hear the name for them the other day?
Is that the South African name for them?
Yeah. What did she call them?
Oh yeah, I can't remember.
It was very funny.
It was.
Anyway, today, Bob, the topic: who is property developing?
Yep.
And really, this is a bit of a myth buster, but there were some great stories in here as well. So you will enjoy it. But the reason we came to this one today, well, there's a few reasons. It's always a reason. But I've had a few, I speak to many people about the courses, etc. And somebody, all in a row, I had quite a few women call up.
Yeah.
And so it got me thinking, why all of a sudden are there women interested? And I'm not saying it was just noticeable in a period of, say, a week, there were more women than normal calling up because I often talk to women about property development.
Yeah.
And then it just got us talking about it. And so the
conversation grew.
It did grow into reasons why, etc. So, Bob, you've been property developing for 40 years. You've been educating since 2000 and...
Well, I actually did some back in the back around 1990, 91, 92.
Yeah.
Then took a break for a decade or two and got back seriously into it, and probably around the time of the end of the GFC, probably 2009.
So 2009, in your experience since 2009 and we're in now 2024, who has been your biggest demographic? What chunk would you say have been the people you've mostly educated?
Well, it changes, it ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
So when I first started educating and I started a mentoring program, that was about 2010. They were all males. And
how old were they?
Well, good point. They were probably a younger sort of cohort. Well, when I say younger, relative, 30 to 45.
Yep.
And male. But that's only one sample. That was one group in 1 year.
Mm.
And I thought, well, that's a bit strange because I knew a few women property developers and I thought, how come that is? And so when I was out educating and talking to people, I thought, well, maybe I should encourage more women to look at property development as an alternative because we know women are highly skilled in a lot of the skills you need for property development. And
I second that.
In doing that, pretty quickly, I started to have women obviously taking up the property development course, but also then joining the mentoring program.
Mm.
And over the probably next 4 or 5 years, it got to a point where it got up to about 40% women in the mentoring program,
Mm.
and obviously the balance are men. Could be a controversial subject, but I think you know what I mean. And
You stop that right
and
now,
so-
Bob Anderson. You stop that right now.
no, I won't. I'll come out swinging. Not going to stop that. But and it had grown to that point, and so the equilibrium for women was about 35-40% in the group.
Right. Do you think that was down to maybe marketing, or what's your
Well,
thoughts
there
on
was
what it
a
was down
little
to?
bit of purposeful marketing
Yeah.
initially
Mm.
when the first mentoring group were all male,
Right.
and I thought that's not really a good cross section of what I thought it should be and could be. And so yeah, I did push a bit towards encouraging females.
Yeah.
And they took up the I wouldn't say they took up the challenge, they took it up.
Right. So really, there was the marketing aspect that showed more women that it was possible. I do notice now because because I'm obviously on plenty of property things
Mm.
online, I get a lot of property adverts, and I have noticed there's a big there is some sort of woman property group lady who's done a development is doing. Oh, there's actually two. I think that. Oh, I know there's three.
Yeah.
But there's a newer one. There's a newer two
Yeah.
on the horizon. That
On the scene on the horizon.
yeah. So I have noticed, and which means that there's obviously I know one of them only targets women,
Yeah.
and then the other one just does whatever she does. But so what do you think when you had that? And this is for the people listening to understand that male or female, it doesn't matter what you are, but what is the main demographic, as in what are they mainly doing for jobs, Bob? What were those women mainly
Wow.
doing?
Yeah, I've had a look over the years
Mhm.
because we meet a lot of people at our workshops, and sometimes the subject comes up about what you do. But when people join our mentoring program, obviously we want to know a lot more about them. And so I do get to know what their jobs are. And it is diverse.
Mm,
If you think about, well, I mean, you know that too. We've had a number of people in the medical profession,
mm,
doctors, specialists, uh, pharmacists. For a while, I seem to have a run on pharmacists. I had chiropractors. I've had everybody in the health services
mm,
area. Not lots of technical consultants. I've only had maybe 2 architects. We've got a little bit of a handful of engineers at the moment as well,
mm,
often civil. So you do get those professional people, but we also get just people from all IT. Now it's funny, a lot of IT people we've had over the years as well, but people in all sorts. We've had teachers. We've had everybody represented
mm,
who. The thing is, they've had a common goal. Like whatever they're doing in their job, the common goal is they want to get into a position where they can make more money,
mm,
improve their lifestyle, and also get part of improving your lifestyle. In my opinion, you need 2 things: more money and less work.
mm.
So you need more time to enjoy yourself, and making more money that helps you enjoy yourself in the time that you have. And we've had specialists, as you know, doctors who simply want more
Mm.
off, and but don't want to drop their income
But we've also
too
had
much.
people,
It'll go up actually.
for sure. But we've also had people that aren't at that highly professional
No.
range. People that have been doing not much at all, really. Just all. I'm going to be careful because I know people listen, and I don't want to. And there's people out there online. There are people that have come from. I know there was a cleaner.
I've had cleaners, carpet layers, tradies. Back in
Yes,
the days when tradies weren't making a fortune, I've had plenty of those. I had a
heaps of builders. We get loads of builders,
yeah,
don't we?
we do
Yeah,
get a number of builders
yeah,
because, well, at least those that are smart enough to know the difference between being a builder and a property developer. And
yes.
there's a world of difference,
Mm.
as some builders have found out to their demise when they've taken on property development, thought they knew it all, and got themselves into trouble because they never got educated. But
What about we've had a female that went through the mentoring program who's now gone and got her building certificate. She's not quite there yet.
yeah.
Go, Connie. So how crazy is that? Because that just speeds up processes for her, and good on her because
Oh
she's blooming
yeah,
going
yeah.
places.
If you want to, I've never wanted to, but
But
great.
hers is really to speed things up so that
Yeah,
she's got the license.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's her thing. But I think something that where you brought to the forefront, Bob, was that it's people that want that change. And I believe that they buy the courses they want to change. Hopefully everyone who buys it does make that change. That's something we don't know all the stats on.
No.
But I do know that the people in the mentoring program definitely are driven. They are driven, and I often find they're people like me that are time poor because they're just on action. They're just
take action.
they've got a lot going on in their lives, and I feel like that is generally that person, people that are really determined that they're going to make something work, so they do that. But Bob, can I ask you the next question, which is around the woman journey, because that's my thing. Historically, women are more into the renovation scene. That's definitely
Traditionally they are, yeah. Initially, often on their first house, it's the woman that picks up the running with renovating, and I'd say women are better. Well,
say it,
better.
Bob. Go on, say it.
Well, better renovators in that I think they're more visual, and I think I'm only generalising when I say this because obviously there's exceptions to every rule, but I think they really understand how to make something look good and how to do it economically. Technically, they've got to learn things like any male or female has to. Although often with renovating, you're doing some things yourself, other things you can't. Obviously, electrical, plumbing, and carpentry you could, but usually can't. But yeah, I think the women are really cut out for that. And look, if you look at most of the renovating courses,
they're run by women.
I don't
Actually, they're all run by women.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I don't know one that's run by a man.
Do you know what's funny? One of them has your face plastered all over their marketing, and another one has my face plastered all over their marketing.
No,
it's quite
you're
funny.
The pin-up girl.
Yeah, we're the pin-up people for other people's renovating courses. But anyway, I kind of like that.
Yeah, so I think women are drawn there initially, but then having done that, and it's the same with male or female.
Yeah, and it's not all. We're talking it's a higher amount. And I'm, don't be the listening. This is a male thinking, I've done 3 renovations and I need to write down underneath. No, we're not saying that. But we are saying that generally women do start out on the renovation.
And a lot of them stay there forever.
Yeah.
They don't want to or
they don't think it's possible. That's what I was talking to someone the other day, Bob. Yeah. They didn't realise that it is possible to step up to property development. And no, that's what you're laughing at me for.
No. Well, it's true. We spend our whole life explaining to people how you can.
Yeah. But then, so there are, a lot of couples get into renovating together, especially young couples, because they see it as a way to get that, start making some money early.
Yeah.
That's the way they see that.
Yeah, just manufacturing equity, really.
Yeah.
By making your property more valuable.
In some ways, I like that. I like that, but in some ways it can be the approach that hamstrings people too. If they want to keep their PPR, they don't always get the equity they want, and then they get stuck with not being able to get enough equity out of their property to get started in property development. Hey,
yeah, I've done some property developments that are way less work than a lot of renos, and probably made 10 times as much money out of them. That's the thing a lot of people don't understand. The difference between property development and what we do there, and maybe some of those hard renos where you sort of scratch around trying to get enough profit, particularly if the market's not going up. Getting on the tools, spending a lot of nights under lighting and all that sort of thing. So but anyway, I'm not knocking renos. The last reno I did, I thoroughly enjoyed. You were my project manager. I was your labourer.
Yeah, you weren't bad. I'm not going to say
I had a good time.
You weren't. We could do some improvements, but I don't think I'll ever get you doing another reno. But anyway, that was just getting rid of one last property I wanted to get out of in New Zealand. The next thing I want to talk about, Bob, is it's about the buying property investment. I'm going to say community or demographic. If we say more women tend to go to renovations, the more people that start, I see 2 demographics going into the property investment space. Yeah, just buying properties to invest in and hoping to get a plan of owning 20 or whatever it is that they want to own. That's a buzz thing that I heard somewhere.
That's easy if you live to be 500.
Yeah, well, there you go. But I know some people have got
I know, but it's the exception to the rule.
But I think that for me, the two demographics I see are,
Mm.
again, the younger people starting out because they, again, don't realize that they can get into property developing. And then the other one, I think, is the baby boomers.
Oh, well, don't knock the baby boomers. You
Don't knock a boomer.
don't knock a boomer, baby. You're talking to one.
But baby boomers, because I think, and
Yeah.
to correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think that property development wasn't really an option for them. So they didn't. So what
Mm.
they would do is get into property investing. It was way easier, and not just because it was easier.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
What
but
to,
boomers have been around a while. I mean, boomers were the post World War II people.
yeah? What are their ages? What are their, not ages? Like, when
Well,
were they born?
there was, because it spread over quite a few years, they tend to break it up into two groups.
Oh,
I think the first group was like 1946 to, you know, after the war. And then they went through to about 1964, I think, but then they broke up. This was like 46 to, I don't know, 54 and 1954, and then 1954 to 1964. So it was quite a spread of
I didn't
people.
know that they split the boomers.
Well, yeah, I mean, they went on for 18 years, the baby boomers, what we call the baby boomers. That's why they sort of split them into two sort of cohorts, two groups. But,
What are they called? Baby boomers A and baby boomers B. What are they called?
well, I mean, the reason is that after the Second World War, there was a lot of babies born,
Yep.
you know, for lots of reasons. You know, the euphoria of the war being over. A lot of people probably didn't want to have babies during the war, not knowing what the results of the war were going to be, bringing children out, you know, soldiers returning from overseas. So for lots of reasons, there was lots of babies, and there was a boom in babies. I guess that's where it came from. But even the baby boomers tended to not do a lot in property investment because they really weren't educated
Oh, they
about it.
didn't.
Well, they did later, but
Right.
not back in the 60s,
No.
like for instance. And if you think about property investment education, there was very little around before say 1980. I mean, there's very little.
Mm.
Like if you think of, well, the internet. I mean, the internet wasn't around until the mid 90s, so we're talking about books and, you know, courses, maybe even live courses. I remember Jan Summers was one of the very first people to write books and educate people about property investment. You know, how to use tax advantages, negative gearing, the whole thing. And I knew Jan back in the day, back in the years ago, but that was like, you know, 1980-ish or thereabouts. And then that started a bit of a wave of investment. And then coming off the back of that, we had some of the scammers, you know, who scammed a lot of people. But that's when it really got a bit of a foothold. Property investment wasn't a big thing because people weren't educated about it, didn't know much about it
But it's probably
until
also
those days.
that time, Bob, that people weren't really into growing or changing. It was changing their lifestyle. It was normal to go
Mm.
to work from 8 till 5, or, you know, they were the times when people were, that wasn't really happening then, was
No,
it?
no, you got to remember back in those days, back in the older days, you know,
Back in the
60s and
old days.
70s, whenever they were, the average retirement age was 65,
Yep.
and a lot of people just lived
The
to
60s,
go on,
7.
to go into the pension. Well, I think back in about the 1940s, the average age of a person was 65 before they fell off the perch.
Holy
That's
heck.
way more now, but and even back in those days, people went on the pension. On average, only lasted 3 or 4 years, but now we live a lot longer, and the pension is nothing attractive to want to. You know, a lot of people aren't, for years now, haven't been looking forward to getting on the pension. They want to look after themselves a lot better than that. It's a bit of a safety net, but, you know, most people don't want to fall into the safety net,
No, gosh, no.
and so that got a lot of, you know, a lot of thrust, a lot of, you know, power behind it back in those post Gough Whitlam days when we had, you know, massive increase in values of properties, and then, you know, the education sort of 3 or 4 years later, and it all sort of started on the investment front.
And so that's potentially why there are less baby boomers. Not, and just like we're talking, not saying 100%, just like the women being more into renovating. So, but there are more baby boomers that are into property investing because that was probably the first thing that came along.
Yeah, and a lot of them didn't go on and property develop. I mean, there's
No.
always lots of property investors in terms of numbers out there,
Mm.
although a lot of them don't get past one or two properties, as we know. So yeah, but I mean, back in the days, you know, sort of early 90s,
Hmm.
I was putting property development syndicates together. So that was an indirect way of people making money from property development without being property developers.
What was that demographic, Bob?
That demographic back in those days was
The early 90s, investing in developments.
mostly male.
Yep.
I mean, if I go back to when I started developing, maybe 2, 3, whenever it was, I never heard of lady developers back then. And most male developers were sort of come up often through the trades. They were like builders or bricklayers. So I used to make the joke about them. They're big men with hairy chests and unbuttoned shirts, and a lot of the developers with big chains around their neck, and they came up from Sydney and Melbourne. But because I was on the Gold Coast during those boom days of the early 80s.
Were you dressed like that, Bob?
No, I didn't dress much like that. It was probably more board shorts and T-shirt and slippery thongs.
Oh, there you go. You should have learnt your lesson there.
I still haven't learned it, no.
No.
But it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
And look, I'm proud to say that we've had a lot to do with the change in terms of women getting involved in property development.
Well, you especially. I mean, most of the educators you've educated, but you lead the charge, really. You have
pretty much, yeah.
Wasn't there somebody, young girl that used to teach it, but she'd never done it or something?
Yeah. Most people know that. Well, yeah, there was somebody who had a property development course, who obviously hadn't done a property development, but was a very good salesperson, and so that person, that female lady, was probably the first property development educator that I remember.
What year was that?
2005 to 2010, something in that range. But from what I recall, I was the first real property developer to do full-on property development education.
And so
I'd probably done like $900 million worth of projects by then.
Yeah, exactly.
So
just got a couple.
I was coming from a background of property development to education, as opposed to some people who just jump into education with very little property development. It's a different model.
It's like me. I have the same problem with coaching when people talk about coaching. Anyway, we won't go down that road. Anyone can be a coach, whatever. They can't. So I think what I wonder, or I've often wondered, Bob, is that are people now, is it something seen as quite prestigious to say you're a property developer and people want to do it, or it's nothing about the prestige, it is 100% about the lifestyle and the money?
Yeah, look, you can't pick a property developer by looking at them.
No.
Like I said, back in the 80s, you probably could, particularly if you're on the Gold Coast where I lived. They all sort of look the same, the White Shoe Brigade. But
oh, the White Shoe Brigade. Look at you go.
Yeah, look at me go. I did have a pair of white shoes once, but I wasn't one of that mob. But these days, look, it could be somebody you sit beside on a bus. Could be a property developer. You don't know. It could be your next door neighbour. You don't know. In some cases, it could be your brother or sister and they haven't told you. You just can't pick property developers anymore. And
I find it. If someone asks me what I do, I don't always say I do property development because of where we live. A lot of people, when you're infilling, which means, for those who don't know, when you're putting more properties in places, like squishing them in a bit more, because
and demolishing houses.
Yeah, and demolishing houses. Some people there's a lot of NIMBYs, not in my backyard. They don't really like the idea of it until they go to sell their house, and then they're keen.
Then then they're keen then to sell it to a developer.
Yeah, because they think they're going to get more, but I don't always say I do property development. I do pick my mark where I am, but I might say, actually, I'm an author and a speaker. I actually did it on the weekend.
100% true.
I know. I just thought, I might not say that. I was just a bit too close to an area where we're doing some stuff, and I thought, I don't know if this is the right demographic to be saying what I do. I was talking to a baby boomer, and I just got the feeling he might not have liked the idea of filling in his backyard. But I think, Bob, if we look at baby boomers now, and they're still really not many of them are developing. There are a few, so remember there are exceptions. They still make, I believe, fantastic investors.
Yeah, well, the youngest baby boomers would be 60. They'd be between 60 and 78.
Yeah.
But mind you, I mean, we've had people in our mentoring program developing properties in their 80s. We've had a few of those.
For sure. But
they're rare.
Yeah, of course, hen's teeth. But what I'm meaning is, for people out there wanting to do property development and needing investors, because many of the baby boomers went to property investing in actual properties that they own, perhaps right now is a good time to communicate with those people about investing in property developments, because as we know, we've had the spike in housing.
Mm.
We probably aren't going to get a huge increase for a while. So their money might be better off making money through development. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and they probably don't understand markets anyway. I mean, I think there's good days ahead, but also Gen X.
Talk to me about the Gen X.
Well, they came after the boomers. They ran from about, say, 1965 to 79.
I'm a Gen Xer. Woohoo! Go the Gen Xers.
Yeah,
Hello to all the Gen Xers
you
out
do
there.
slip into the Gen Xers. So they're 45 to 59 probably.
Right.
And
Hello to all my fellow Gen Xers.
They make good investors as well, because they've often, in that 45 plus, they've accumulated some wealth. They're often in a good position. What are they? What did I say? They were 45 to 59.
59, yeah.
In some cases, the kids have grown up. They may have even inherited money, by that age, and so they can. That if you ask me to pick a generation who might be
a good investor
in one of your projects,
it's the Gen Xers, you reckon?
It could be the Gen Xers, yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean, we're not saying it's everybody, but I understand that's actually a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
The Gen X.
I think they'd be some of the boomers are getting a little bit old, so they don't really want to be investing in property development. Obviously some of the younger ones would.
Yeah.
But a majority of them probably, it's past them now. They've already got their whole retirement plan set, and they just want to do that.
Just want to kick back and play lawn bowls. So, hello to all you lawn bowlers.
A lot of the lawn bowling champions are younger.
Yeah, I don't know about lawn bowls.
Yeah, no, I don't know much either, but I've seen some of the champion ones. They look to be in their 30s or something.
Crikey, we've gone way off track today.
Yeah, we're talking about lawn bowls.
Yeah, how did that happen? Yeah, that's so off track. Okay, so that's sort of an opportunity for those looking for investors. Bob's advice is maybe the Gen Xers are your people, and they're sort
I'm
of
just
45
saying they'll
to
fall
59.
into that generation.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. They've got that wealth potentially, and their money's made money. And actually, while we were on that, I was sitting somewhere yesterday and I heard somebody say, well, when housing prices come back down, and I'm thinking, I don't know where you live, but I do know it's around me, and they don't coming down anytime soon.
No, God, no. They've had their correction. All it was a correction.
But did they really come down? Is it 100,000? Is it
no,
down? No. What was it? $8.20?
Oh, look, probably at its worst, 15%. But then it went up 60 something before that.
Yeah.
When you see jumps like that, it's just a correction after a boom. So no, I used to have a photograph once of a ragged old man, with a walking stick and clothes falling off him and beard and long hair, and the saying underneath was, "This is the man who waited for the price of property to fall before he bought." And there he was,
He never bought anything.
Living on the streets.
Oh, no, not good.
I know somebody like that, actually. He's been telling me that for probably 20 years. Still doesn't own a property.
Oh, dear.
Shame.
Oh, dear.
He could have bought one 20 years
ago. We've got a great spot in a retirement village here. There you go.
Yeah. Well, that's, yeah.
Just a wee advert. We are having our joint ventures event. Yeah, it's a workshop actually for 2 days in Sydney on the 18th and 19th of May. So if you're interested in that, and there has never been a joint ventures like this, we've never done one, and Bob's going to unpack the many joint ventures so you can learn about them. There'll be people there interested in investing. There'll be people there looking for investors. It's going to be closed, so even though it runs for 2 days, there won't be people coming in afterwards, which often happens at some of our events. No, it will be a closed event, and it will be definitely worth coming along to. So if you're keen, there'll be a link below. Just click into that and you can come along.
We'll have a couple of our experts there as well. Not too many.
No. So Bob,
besides ourselves.
I just want to finish up here, but I believe that what we're saying is just pretty much like my podcast that I did a couple of weeks ago, is anyone can do anyone can do property development. You have to be a doer, not a talker. You can't just talk about it. You've just actually got to do it.
Yeah.
And you've got to be determined.
Gender's irrelevant.
Yep, gender is irrelevant. And if you're looking for an investor, perhaps look for some Gen Xers. They kind of wander around looking a bit like me. And what about would you more often ask a male or a female to be an investor, Bob? What's your advice on this one?
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
No, look, we raise a lot of capital. Well, you do.
Always raising capital. If you've got some money, let me know. I've got some great investments available right now.
I mean, a lot of those investors are ladies. that,
Yep.
that invest.
Women. Yep.
Women, yeah. I don't know what the percentage is. It's probably that old 30, 35 thing back again,
Yep.
maybe.
About
Do you
35%.
think it'd be around that?
Yeah, it's about
Yeah.
35% women that want to invest, that are investing. Anyway, I think we're there, Bob. I think that it's that who's property developing. Many people, but we do have there is a person, they are definitely interested in property, but where there is anybody to stop waffle,
It
Hillary.
is anybody.
Yeah,
It ebbs and flows.
yeah,
Sometimes we see more male than
women.
female, but it ebbs and flows. Ages as well.
Yeah,
I'd say in the last 12 months we've seen more under 45s.
definitely.
Definitely, in that
Bob,
last 12 months, but
we had
by a
earlier
long
this
way.
year, we had a lot of under 35s.
Under 35s,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and that's just been the last 12 months. But,
yep.
I mean, that's not a long time. It's not a huge sample of
And remember, we're
people.
only working with 20 at a time, so we don't have a huge,
Yeah,
it's not a huge sample, but
no, but people buying our course that you talk to as
oh,
well.
just, yeah, buying the course is
Yeah,
different. Yeah.
so, but similar thing. So, yeah,
All right. Well, we hope you got something out of that. Who's property developing, how you might look for investors, and we'll catch up with you again next week. Bye for now.
bye.